Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another great episode of Away from the Keyboards, the show that teaches you that correlation and causation both start with the letter C. Our guest today is Troy. He's a native data scientist and the creator of datascientists.com, one of the largest communities online for data scientists and data science topics. Going from 200,000 members strong, he's also an investor in the Bhutan Data Scientists, a community that aspires to work on projects for the betterment of humankind. Unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties on my part that I'm working on hard to fix, the sound from Troy is not the best. But still, we had a great conversation for all of you to listen, so sit back, relax, and I hope you all enjoy it. Without any further ado, Troy, welcome to the show.
Hoy, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
You have a great story, and you are probably the longest holder, if not the only ever holder of the domain datascience.com, right? So
Yes.
you have been involved in the industry for a couple of years, to put it mildly. Very curious, how did it all started for you? What is your origin story?
Well, yeah, my origin story actually goes back to when I, like most people, didn't know what I was going to do in the world. I found myself at a conference one day and I was there promoting my business. And at that particular point in my life, I had a diploma in biological lab techniques. I had a degree in science. I had a degree in IT, and I was partially through my MBA. So yeah, I'd been exploring, but how it happened that I got to be the owner of datascientist.com was when I was at this conference in Melbourne, Australia. It was called the E-Research Australasia Conference, and an international conference with speakers from all around the world. I was there promoting my business, which I just set up, and I had a little poster because they had a exhibitors section, not where you buy a booth, but just a poster site, which is the cheaper option. And I put up a poster about my company, which was called Research IT Online. I hope to bridge the gap between IT and researchers. And a guy came up to me and he said, "Hey, that's interesting. Now tell me a bit more about what you do." So I said, "Well, we do a lot, but what we like to do is sit next to researchers. We're the interface to data and technology. We help them advance with the changing technology scene because they're so busy with keeping up to date with whatever their domain is. They don't have time or sometimes the interest to actually go the IT side, but that's what I love to do." And after I said that, he turned to me and he's like, "Wow, we have a name back in the States for guys like you. We call you data scientists." I'm trying to put on an American accent there because he was American. When he said those words, it was like, data scientists? Wow, that's so cool. Felt like the heavens had opened up and a big hand came down, labeled me with a purpose and a direction in life. So that night I looked up what is data scientists, and all these reports started coming up about this new role that was coming in the academic industry of the data scientist, which did exactly what I said I was doing. So that's when I bought datascientist.com. And yeah, I rebranded myself as a data scientist, and my clients didn't care because as long as I kept doing the work I was doing. And yeah, that was in 2009.
Oh, that's 16 years ago. That's quite
It's
nice.
quite a while.
Yeah, back
Yeah.
then, most of the things that we would see from the data industry was probably just business intelligence and data warehouse engineering, and not that much talks about data science.
That's right. It was early in when I started datascientist.com, I hardly had any traffic. So that's when I branched out to social media, created the Twitter handle Data Scientists. I created the Facebook page, created the LinkedIn group called Data Scientists. And for that group now, we're about to hit 200,000 members. But yeah, for the first probably 5 years, we had under 1,000 members.
It has been growing a lot, that community. When did you notice that the biggest jump of people joining the community was?
Well, yeah, I think it did happen around 2000. 2014, something changed where data scientists became the hottest job in the IT industry. I feel perhaps I played a part with that as well, having datascientist.com. I do a little YouTube video, I do articles, I publish things out there about how cool this new job was and how it emerged and was emerging. And I felt that as an opportunity to really drive what the role was, as well as be a part of it myself as it evolved from just as computer science didn't exist maybe 50, 60 years ago as a job, the computer scientist. We saw the data scientists emerging, and when it picked up in the kind of commercial industry and some other influencers started publishing about the data scientists, it really boomed. In 2013, 14, 15, that's when my group started exponentially growing.
Yeah, I think it was about the same time that I started hearing for the first time people talking about big data and dealing with large volumes of data, which before it was just, we were talking about just terabytes, single digit, double digit, terabyte data warehouses. But now we were talking about a lot of unstructured data and a lot of more insights to bring into the mix. So curious, during that whole time, since 2009 now to 2025, how have you seen the role of the data scientist evolved?
Yeah, it has really evolved. I've seen in terms of what traditionally I feel the data scientist as I emerge in it. I like to use the term native data scientist. So the native data scientist really comes from that academia in that space of helping researchers get their job done. But yeah, when it got picked up in the commercial side, it really, yes, you're right, the big data boom actually happened. But we've had that big data, we used to call it the data deluge issue in the academic industry. So yeah, it was there and growing also exponentially or even faster in terms of the amount of data we can manage. But yeah, the original reports around the data scientists, one of the things it was there, or that role was there to solve, was the data deluge issue. And again, when it switched from data deluge to big data, that commercial industry kind of got a hold of it. All the big companies were saying, we got your big data solution here, come sign up, and you need to be big data ready, all these things. Not only did they look for data scientists, but they also changed what a data scientist was. Exactly, more focused on big data. And then as that kind of got the main role of the data scientist was to help big data, the next level kind of came on top, which was the analytics. And that's also grown and evolved as, from the traditional AI to this new deep learning AI, large language models.
Yeah, because I think I also remember it was back in that time that I started also. Not in 2013, but a bit afterwards that I started hearing more about also the data analyst as a role. Because before, as I was mentioning, like most of what you see in the industry was focused on business intelligence, and kind of how I like to describe back then the business intelligence developer was the jack of all trades. You did everything: database, data warehouse, reporting, analytics, whatever came, but the complexity wasn't that big. It was just kind of normal KPIs. But as the landscape evolved, these roles also had to kind of evolve from that world of data science that is supported by computer science. Nice. It brings me back to those days. And how has it been so far, growing that community in LinkedIn? Like, we have seen almost every year or every couple of years, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of these great companies decide to change their algorithms, and that sometimes have an impact on communities. I know for sure, as someone that has been in LinkedIn for, I think, since 2009, I would say. So since almost the early beginnings of LinkedIn, maybe not 2000. Yeah, I think it's 2009. There was way more sharing of posts of communities that one was attached to. And now it seems like it's very hard to see them within the feed. So how has it been your experience over these last couple of years with LinkedIn?
Exactly the same. We've seen a lot of change in the algorithm where with the group growing, and people joining and then posting and the interaction, we'd get lots of people really loving to be on the group, speak for just for that reason, to get sort of some exposure. But yeah, currently it's very kind of hidden in terms of that engagement, or I guess the reach, I should say, is low, because you could just see it. Something would change in the background and make a post and nothing. And then that's when people started falling off the group, and then just you get more engagement just by posting your own feed rather than within a group. But then it changed again, and we got it's been going up and down like over the years. We somehow make the group posts more viewable. For a little while, we got more exposure happening. The funny thing is, I've been looking at the analytics as well, all through it, and just not really working on it, but just viewing it, because my expertise is in occupational epidemiology, and currently running and helping to run, I should say, one of the largest studies done in Australia, which is called the Australian Work Exposure Study. Just in the first 3 months, so the initial pilot is about to run, we built a tool called OC-Ideas that helps assess over 100 different types of jobs and over 150 tasks that give deterministic results around what people are exposed to in the workplace. So that keeps me busy. But yeah, as the group's grown, I've just been observing what's been happening with it. And yeah, the analytics really shows how, well, first of all, the growth rate, then it kind of flattens out, and then the engagement around that as well. So yeah, it's been interesting to watch, and you can just see when something happens on the LinkedIn algorithm side, because join, slow down, or the engagement drops off.
Yeah, and I guess you often put your data scientist hat when you're looking into those analytics, and have kind of a workflow to look into that, right?
That's right. Yeah, I just can't help do it. I feel like the data scientist role is not a job for me. It's just a lifestyle. And I'll always be a data scientist, just as a painter will be a painter, or an actor will be an actor. So, yeah, or a writer. You don't retire from these types of roles. I just feel fortunate and blessed that I found this role, or it's found me, that I just love doing, and I almost consider it as a martial art. So if I don't practice every day, I feel a little bit off. And the more I practice, the stronger I get, because of how quickly things change in this industry.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that front. I feel the same with computer science and data in general. Like, since I started my career coding, and by the way, I started studying as a software engineer. I hated databases, but I never coded a line of code, proper code, to save my life. I ended up as a data person without ever liking databases. But since that happened, like that bug of being able to look into data, infer insights from it, it's something that has always been there. It's always that you get access to a big data set, you cannot help but scratch that itch of, what can I learn from it?
Yeah.
And as the community is evolving, and of course, like, you are dependent on whatever LinkedIn decides to do with their algorithm, I know that you also have been looking into alternatives to expand and rebrand the community. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, so we just relaunched datascientist.com, and I feel kind of bad over the time, because datascientist.com, I've been sitting on that domain for so long and not really done anything with it, as well as developing the group into a more engaging community. But yeah, in the last, just this year, I've decided I'm going to put more energy towards it. So datascientist.com, we've now launched a new membership option. Also, we haven't touched on this part of my life yet, but highly influenced by the Kingdom of Bhutan. I've spent a lot of time there, actually. I set up a company in 2017 called Bhutan Data Scientists, which had the mission of establishing a community of like-minded data scientists slightly enlightened data scientists that only work on projects for the betterment of humanity. And it's gone on a roller coaster ride as well over the times. But now, with a mixture of my Bhutanese influence and the growing need for more mindful data scientists, we are establishing a monk mode membership program for data scientists. And yeah, we're rolling it out. It's available now. We're starting the pricing point at just $50 per year and hoping to evolve that. We're treating it as a agile and iterative project itself. I want the members to help us build it into what it can be.
Yeah, that's a great thing. And I do want to touch upon a bit more on that part of your life story of Bhutan, which we kind of touched about when we had a previous call, but I want to deep dive a bit more. But before that, there is a recurrent segment in this show that is called Pass It Forward, where a guest passes forward a question to another guest. And the question to you came from David. He works here in the Netherlands. He's a head of platform engineering. And he wanted to know, what was the one experience that made you choose this career in tech?
Yeah, so the one experience is hard because there's lots of points or defining moments in my life where I realized, yeah, when I look back, this is what's put me on the path. But if I was to put it down to one point in that specific, like answering that specific question about in tech, I actually got into tech late in life. You know, I have friends that just, they're teenagers, they were just all about technology, and particularly, you know, a little younger generation than me, because like I grew up, the first computer we had was Commodore 64, and even though I enjoyed it, I never felt like, yeah, this is for me. It wasn't until I discovered this game called Doom. I'm not sure if you remember this first person shooting game. The zombies were going, and when I just wanted to play that. So I spoke to my friends. So at this time I was just doing my diploma in biological lab techniques, but I had techie friends that was, oh yeah, this new game. So I wanted to install it, and I got this floppy disk. We had floppy disks back then. I put it in my computer, and it didn't work. Oh, yeah. So I had to bring my friend over. You know, we didn't have mobile phones even back then. It's come on over and help. So he was like going into the DOS system, and I was like, wow, that's cool, man. That not only playing the game and seeing what the game could do, but how to set it up. And I wanted to be in a point where I knew what to do as well. And that really got me into tech. So that's when I decided to go back to university and do a degree in information technology. Because I've already had my diploma in biological lab techniques, I wanted to pick up on science as well. So I did my combined degree in science, majoring in biological sciences. I did really well in neuroscience, and a diploma in information technology, majoring in computer science. And I did really well in maths. I did really well in database management, and that just set me up for that role that I didn't know was coming, but it is now, the data scientist.
That's so cool. You just brought me back also to those days of CD Doom, Doom.exe.
Yeah.
And to the young folks listening that don't know what a floppy disk is the save button. So it's the icon of the save button. They used to be plastic things that you would attach to your computer, and you could put a hole on the different side and get twice the memory size. No one knows why. It's pure magic, but it used to work quite good. For me, it was Doom and Duke Nukem 3D. Those are like the two big games that I spend many hours playing.
Yeah.
Cool. And now going back to the main topic that we were just discussing, because I really want to understand a bit more about that whole mission that you set out about getting data science in Bhutan. And I really like the quote that you just mentioned, getting some enlightened data scientists to work on projects for the betterment of mankind. How did that idea came to you? I see that you have some flags in the back as well. The people that are listening to this podcast, they will not be able to see it, but can you tell us a bit more about that story?
Definitely. Yeah, it's a really interesting part of my life. And yeah, I love culture and the mindset that comes around Bhutan. Bhutan is a small Himalayan kingdom above India, below China, and they are well known for their metric, which is the gross national happiness. So Fourth King put this forward back in the 1970s as he was a young kid king. He just been crowned. Unfortunately, his father passed away at an early age, so he had to take the reins. And yeah, he was at one, World Economic Development conference, and people were telling him about how important GDP was. And he turned around and said, "Well, I think people should be looking at something like happiness." And he said, gross national happiness is more important than GDP, gross product. And that's when the media picked it up. And then, he, as a nation, drove that kingdom towards this new type of mindset, which is less materialistic and more wholesome, I feel. So, but yeah, to put it into context of how I got involved, I was working as a data scientist at Queensland University of Technology. We were doing some big data analytics. If you want to learn more about that, if you Google the word Australian Twitter sphere, you'll see what I was involved. We actually pulled in a lot of tweets that were just Australian as well as users, and mapped out what the Australian Twitter sphere looked like in terms of the people in the posts that they were making, or I should say tweets. But yeah, one day I submitted my jobs to the supercomputer, so I didn't have much more to do for the rest of the day. Decided to take the day off and head home. In order to get home, I would catch the train, but I'd get a courtesy bus from one campus to the other, because the other campus was right near the train. And as I hopped on in this mid-afternoon, beautiful spring day, for some reason the bus was packed. So I had to take a seat that was next to somebody. Normally I just head back and open my laptop, do a bit more while I'm in the bus. So I sat next to someone, and then he smiled at me, and then I kind of nodded and smiled. But then, just within a few seconds, he pulled out his phone. I said, "Excuse me, can you help me read this message?" And it was one of those old, like Nokia phones. It wasn't like an iPhone or things. So it just had that display scrolling across. All these, it was like hieroglyphic characters to me. Just like, I don't know what's going on with phones. But anyway, we started talking. He said he was from Bhutan. And I said, "Are you a student or are you a lecturer?" He was like, "I'm a student. I'm doing my PhD on happiness." And that was the first time I got to learn about G and H. I'd heard of Bhutan before, but I hadn't associated with this gross national happiness. And that really blew my mind as, what? You can measure happiness? How it's so fleeting and changing. How do you do it? And then got really intrigued and curious to learn more about Bhutan and gross national happiness. And that was around 2014. I visited a couple of times each year. 2017, they just had started this FDI, or reworked their FDI policy, the foreign direct investment opportunities. So I took up that and invested and created Bhutan Data Scientists with that mission. So that's how that evolved. And that's will always be a direction, a kind of a lighthouse for me of which way I want to go as I further develop the community as well as my career.
Cool. And I think one of the recent posts that you posted out, which had a picture of you in Bhutan, and it was talking about this new monk membership that you set it up on datascientist.com. You mentioned a thing that I thought it was very interesting, is that what you saw there is that everyone had a mentor, and that had a very big impact on the way that they were growing. So how was that experience?
Well, the ancient wisdom that just is there, and you just kind of absorb this energy as being in Bhutan. And Bhutan's not the only place that holds this, but for me anyway, it resonates. So it was really like energetic just to observe this energy that comes from these things that you're talking about, mentorship and tradition. And they're also very innovative. So it's this mixture of innovation and tradition. I think that kind of encompasses what we're talking about in terms of mentorship. So I see it strong in the temples and monasteries. There's always elder monks and younger monks. The younger monks like absorbing and learning, but taking that out of the context of a monastery and a temple and putting it into a field like data science is part of what set out to do.
Yeah, it's almost like a similar thing that I've seen over my career, where kind of have your more senior developers that also share the knowledge with the most media developers. I was having a chat a while back for another podcast with our guest. He's from the US and he wrote a book called Minimum Viable SQL Patterns. And what he put in that book and that we were discussing, it was kind of vocal knowledge that when I started my career was being passed from seniors to more junior members, but no one ever wrote it down. And then there was like some tiny pieces of knowledge that you only shared when a situation like that would occur. So like we were going as crazy as optimizing little parameters on the database, but you didn't need it to do it all the time. So only when that very specific situation occurred, you would do it, and then you would share that knowledge to your juniors. And I think that's kind of an important thing in our industry, which is all about bringing the knowledge from the more senior, the more experienced people, not just because they have been here for a long time, but most of the times because they have experienced some hurdles, because we have a lot in this industry, that they can share those experiences. That's quite quite nice way to approach coaching and mentoring.
Definitely. And yeah, it's just obvious, like if someone's been around a few years longer than somebody else, there'll be things that they've learned that they can then turn around and pass back. And yeah, like you said, some things you can't even think about to write it down to say, oh yeah, if I have a mentee, I'm going to tell them this. It's more about working in this space and discovering how you solve the problems on the fly. So, but in addition to that, I like to talk about two aspects of mentorship. One is the traditional, which what we're talking about here is where you have a senior and a junior. But the peer-to-peer mentorship is the second type of mentorship we want to promote and set up behind the Monk Mode membership program, where you have people of similar experience and age, but still working and collaborating and shooting ideas around. So yeah, and not only at the point where we have to say, okay, you've got this amount of experience, you can be a peer-to-peer mentor with somebody else, the same sort of same category, but that student to mentor or the mentee to mentor relationship, I learn a lot from my students, my interns. Yeah, just because of how quickly things are changing, they tell me, these golden nuggets that come up maybe once a week. Yeah, and that puts me ahead as well.
Yeah, I think I heard from back to the analogy that you gave in the beginning, as you approach data science almost as a martial art, that you need to keep on doing it to keep current and not lose that muscle memory. I also heard from some people that do martial arts and they teach it, that teaching it is what helps them become even better, because when they are teaching, they're like, oh, okay, so this is the right way that we should do it. Even though I knew the theory, but I never really talked about it that good. And then doing it with the students, you also learn a lot. So that's quite nice.
Exactly.
And what is the project that you see, or what do you want to accomplish with this community in the next, let's say, 1 to 3 years?
Well, yeah, I have big goals, and I think that's part of my nature is to go big. And I want to transform what is now the LinkedIn group into a real engaging community. And what that means is just more interaction and more long-term relationships. So when you set up a network connection, it's something that kind of committed to having frequent interactions with the group, whether it is just coming and looking at seeing what's happening, or it's posting, interacting with content, or it's coming to our knowledge jams. So I haven't mentioned that yet, but as part of the program, we run weekly knowledge jams where we just all come together and level up together, brainstorming and improvising the agenda, what it is. So I want to hit 1 million members by the end of next year, 2026. And that's driving me and motivating me to get up sometimes early in the morning and do these podcasts.
That sounds like a really good and a round number goal. And yes, for the people listening, it's what, 5 a.m. for you at this moment?
Yeah, well, we're coming up to 5:45 now, but we did start at 5.
Yeah, and it's kind of also something that can be a bit of a hurdle for you, since most of this community is so international and you have to deal with so many time zones. So how are you doing to, besides waking super early to talk with people, what other things have you looked into to try to keep the community engaged and maybe have those sessions organized in different time zones?
Well, yeah, I do have different time sets in the day. So the morning session, the afternoon session, and an evening sessions. But beautiful part is, like, as I mentioned before, I don't see it as a job. It's not 9 to 5 for me. So I can take a few hours off in the middle of the day if I want. But yeah, it is my life now. So all I do is be a data scientist and sleep. So yeah, I like to sleep 8 hours. I do have a bedtime, and my alarm every morning goes off at 7. So I go to bed at 11. My alarm goes off at 7. So I try to get that 8 hours sleep. Of course, it takes time to fall asleep, and usually I'm up earlier. But yeah, that block time, which is a big part of my development career and also the training things as I teach others, is to really get good at block time, and that includes sleep.
Cool. And going a bit more on the advice mode, because one of the things that I always like to do in this podcast is to capture some knowledge from people in the industry and someone that maybe have something good to share, like a mentor to most of the folks listening out there. What advices would you share with your younger self starting a journey in data science, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, I saw that question and I wasn't sure how to answer it, because I'm part of where I am right now. I just love where I am. And if I had have made or interfered with the past life, made some different decisions and been on a different trajectory, as people have asked me what is a data scientist over the years, I've come up with my own model of an ascendance model, where there's a 3 ascendance model. The first is you decide you want to pursue data science as a career, so that's an aspiring data scientist. The second is a professional data scientist, where you're actually hired as a data scientist and you get the title on your business card or whatever, data scientist. And the third is the independent data scientist, where you can be like I am now, a digital nomad, and travel the world and work on projects that you choose and be with people you love. So yeah, if I went back, I'd give myself advice to stick at that professional data scientist. Early on, I became an independent data scientist, and there's a lot of wins, but also hassles that come with that. So yeah, I think I'd give myself some more time to sit in that professional data scientist role, work for companies perhaps like Google or Amazon, but then always have that mission and vision to become an independent data scientist.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice and a great way for us to end this podcast. But before I let you go, if people want to know more about Troy, more about the data science community that you are growing and this monk membership program, what is the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, the best way is to join the group on LinkedIn. My name is very, Googleable. See, if you Google me, I'll come up. And yeah, reach out on LinkedIn. If you're not a direct, enough network connections in between, join the group. We'll always be open to joining the group, no matter how degrees of separation we have on LinkedIn. I'll see you there, and you'll get approved. Usually it takes a few days can take up to 3 days to get approval through. But if you be patient and you join, you'll be able to interact with me through the group. But of course, datascientist.com. Just come to the website. There's some free training material there, and there's a direct chat that you can post a question, and I'll be able to answer all your questions and connect with you.
Cool, and I'll make sure to add all of those links to the show notes. And if we can dig up maybe the ones that you mentioned about the work that you are doing on gathering the tweets, if that is out there somewhere in the interwebs, maybe it's a good one also to share with the folks that are listening and interested to know more. Again, Troy, thank you so much for coming to the podcast and having this chat with me.
It's been wonderful, Huey. Thank you so much.
And to everyone still listening to the podcast, keep your model sharp, and see you again away from the keyboards.